It's Wednesday, February 22nd, and this is CT Pulse on the HAN network. I'm Kate Czaplinski.
And I'm Josh Fisher. On today's show, we're going to take a look at some of these packed town halls that Jim Himes has had celebrating liberal hand-wringing over the past couple weeks. And our talk on sober houses continues this week, too.
U.S. Senator Chris Murphy calling for possible review of the federal regulations around that. Josh, and I know some towns in this area might be happy to hear that, as there's been some concerns recently, as we've discussed on the show.
Yep. And then we're going to take a look at how some towns might be trying to get together to attack Governor Malloy's budget, particularly some of the more wealthy towns down here in Fairfield County. Right. But first, Kate, let's start. Jim Himes had a packed town hall in Norwalk last night, and he was in Ridgefield earlier in the week or last week.
Yesterday, actually.
Oh, yesterday also. Oh, okay,
yesterday.
right. Mm-hmm. So it was earlier in the week compared to today.
So that's a scene, that's a shot that was on Twitter of the Norwalk Town Hall, and I heard some people were actually turned away. I know Congressman Himes said he apologized to those. They searched for the largest venue they could. The original space only allowed for 500 plus more people, but he said he was just grateful that all of those people came out. And in Richfield, much smaller town hall, but still a good crowd. Richfield, obviously a smaller venue there, but still drawing a lot of people. Now, Josh, I find this interesting because I remember during Congressman Himes' first term, when he was doing some town halls around there, there were also packed crowds, but it was a lot of the Tea Party at that time.
Right.
A lot of people kind of rebelling against the Obama administration. And now we're seeing the opposite. I mean, these are people that are agreeing with Congressman Himes and how critical he's been of the Trump administration.
Right, it's like exactly 8 years later.
Yeah.
And, the Tea Party rose up after Obama was elected president. And now this, which doesn't have a formal name to it, I guess, but the group of liberals and Democrats who are rising up and are upset about the current presidency. So, every 8 years, or sometimes every 4 years, we have a group of people who are very upset that the election did not go their way.
Right. Well, to be fair, I think there are. I think we're seeing unprecedented things right now that are concerning to people right now, just in the way of handling things.
But the people on the other side said that everything was unprecedented when Obama was elected, and it's,
you're right.
The entire nation is full of sore losers who are all upset that their person didn't get elected, and that happens every 4 years on the national level, and then these people don't, and in Connecticut is different than the rest of the nation. Connecticut's not the state legislature is becoming more towards the middle. The Republicans are close to taking it over, or close to it. They have a tie in the state Senate. They're 12 seats behind in the House, or fewer in the House. But we still have nationally, Connecticut's a blue state. It's been 10 years now since any Republican was elected to Congress or to or any other statewide office, such as senator or governor. That last happened in 2006, as we talk about a lot on here. So the Democrats have a strong hold. The 5th district which is the north of us down here in the 4th district, where we are right now, is a little, you could say is a close to a toss-up. But Elizabeth Esty still won by a few percentage points back in November. But you have a lot of these people who are very upset, and they can't believe that Donald Trump is the president, and they can't believe that he is following through on what he said he was going to do when he ran for president, which I'm sure is very confusing to Democrats, because like Barack Obama didn't follow through on much of what he promised, and now we actually have a president who is following through on what he promised.
Yeah.
So
well, I think that was also because we had a lot of analysts saying, don't take him literally, as we've talked about this before, it's all, he's just saying these things to get the crowd going, but he's actually keeping to his campaign promises.
Right.
And to be fair, Republicans at the time of Barack Obama's presidency did block a lot of what he tried to get done.
Okay, right. But I mean, Kate, throughout history, Congress has been blocking things that presidents have done, and it was nothing new in when Obama became president. It's nothing new what the Democrats are trying to do. This has been going back to at least when John Quincy Adams was elected, and the corrupt bargain was cast so that he became president over Andrew Johnson, even though Andrew Johnson got a plurality of the popular vote and plurality of the Electoral College, and Congress said, we're not going to do anything. They'll let John Quincy Adams advance his agenda, and that was in the 1820s. So like there's but
American tradition.
Every 4 years we act like, oh my God, I can't believe that people are obstructing what the president wants to do. I mean, that's kind of Congress's job. But right now the Democrats find themselves in this. They were spent. I think a lot of it is they spent most of this campaign being there's no way that this buffoon Donald Trump is going to get elected, and then they started, with how Hillary Clinton ran her campaign, being like, hey, we might win Utah, we might win Arizona. This is the new dawn of a new Democratic age, and none of that happened. And people are still in this grieving process of understanding why the country. True. Now, of course, Clinton won the popular vote. Gerrymandering has helped create it so that the Republicans can have control, because most states are run by a Republican legislature and have a Republican governor. So they've been able to gerrymander these districts to make it very hard for any sort of congressman to lose re-election. The cards are stacked against them. But there was so much hope going into this in 2016, and so much now sadness and.
I think it must be funny because we're seeing national news that the Republican congressmen are just getting bombarded at their town hall meetings with people on the liberal side of things. But for Jim Himes, it's obviously welcome because these kind of people are all in line.
Well, he says he's enjoying it. He feels like he feels like a rock star.
We should say also he has another town hall in Bridgeport tonight and or tomorrow. I'm sorry, I have to double check on that. And one in Stamford on March 4th. Also, his Facebook page, Congressman Jim Himes, has been Facebook living the town halls. So if you can't make it and you're interested in hearing what people are talking about, that's definitely a good place to do it, Josh.
Yeah.
And just kind of talking about national discussion and debate seeping into local politics, I thought this was interesting, but our Wilton Bulletin reports that a few weeks ago, some of those ridiculous flyers that showed up in Norwalk also showed up in Wilton, the ones that say "Make America White Again." They were dropped in some driveways. And since then, a Wilton resident, 20-year-old, proposed a proclamation to the Board of Selectmen to declare the town a place of tolerance. Just saying in part, I want to reaffirm our shared belief that diversity enriches us and tolerance, inclusion, and civility are our core values. There's been a lot of positive response to this, but I also thought it was worth mentioning that there was one letter to the Wilton Bulletin that basically said this is pointless. I don't need our Board of Selectmen wasting more than 30 seconds on this pointless proclamation when there are actual problems to solve. So just kind of an interesting way that national debate and concern about racism, anti-Semitism kind of here on the local level.
I think that, those like these things, we are a tolerant town, all this stuff, are frankly a waste of time because, you are taking away from doing actual business you're hired to. You're not, elected to be fair, it doesn't usually take more than 30 seconds.
No,
that's true. But you know what? It gets a lot of focus.
Right.
And and these are all like they're paper tigers. They do nothing other than just make everyone feel all warm and fuzzy inside, and they can go home and all these white.
Which, hey, is that such a bad thing?
I know, but it's like it's all these rich white people, Wilton, Connecticut, can go home and slap each other on the back and say we're tolerant. But if someone who wasn't white moved in next door, they might not feel the same way, and that's kind of how all these it's these limousine liberals who love to go and pat each other on the back about how great they are. But you know what? They would never send their kids to a school in Bridgeport. They would never, they would never actually be inclusive unless they could completely control it. And that's something that it's just all like it's a waste of time, and it's a bunch of BS, frankly. Because why not actually do something good. Send the kids to school in Bridgeport for a day. Do something. Don't just sit there in your, on Route 7 in Wilton, where, if you drive down Route 7, who do you see pulled over all the time? Minorities, by the police. And studies have come out saying that in these wealthy towns, the police target, non-white drivers. But instead of focusing on something like that, they focus on, being all proud of themselves because they made a proclamation.
And a story we talked about, a few months ago, but, Wilton students
chanting, yes, make America great again, or build the wall.
Students, which is a school that is diverse and has a large Hispanic population. That was very unfortunate. I think definitely, and I know the school since decided to have conversations around that kind of stuff, more productive to address actual incidents as opposed to some idiots that dropped some ridiculous flyers.
Oh yeah, and
which is unsettling. I would be upset if I saw that flyer in my driveway.
Oh, me too. And I would be ashamed of my town if something like that happened. But there are other ways than to get a bunch of politicians who also in Wilton who never face rarely ever face a challenge when running for office. and are rarely ever not white also, to sit there and talk about how great they are, because you know what, they're proclaimed there be a town of, what is it, a proclamation of, what was it?
Tolerance.
Tolerance.
Yes.
Yeah.
That talking about that diversity makes us
I think tolerance,
better.
Wilton, Connecticut pops up there first on the Wikipedia page.
God,
what a joke.
You mentioned things moving in next door, and we had managing editor of the New Canaan Advertiser, Michael Katarivas, in here a few weeks ago to talk about neighbors being upset about a sober house. Now, this is an expensive sober house, a high-end place. It was a place for male patients after going to rehab where they would live. I think it was like about $12,000 a month to stay there. Neighbors upset because it was in a residential neighborhood. Well, just interesting to note that U.S. Senator Chris Murphy, as well as some other U.S. Senators, Elizabeth Warren, Orrin Hatch, and Marco Rubio, so some bipartisan senators there, have called on the U.S. Government Accountability Office to now investigate federal and state oversight of sober living houses and determine whether additional oversight is necessary. Now, Chris Murphy noted that he brought this up because there's been some recent overdose deaths at sober houses. Most recently, a Richfield man and a Danbury woman died within the span of 2 weeks from drug overdoses at a sober house in Torrington. So they're going to see discuss what the role is of these regulations and oversight. Now, just today, New Canaan Advertiser had another story about still town officials there trying to see what they could actually do to regulate a sober house, which isn't much because local ordinances don't apply.
I think also, though, you can't be surprised that someone who is an addict who's trying to get clean, because addiction is a disease, that then they succumb to that disease and they overdose on drugs. It's not breaking news when an alcoholic takes a drink. These things overall, if 2 people die over the course of the thousands who use these, that's not a big deal, really. It's sad, certainly, for those families and for those people, but to make laws and regulations over, 1 or 2 things happening, it's not a trend. That's just what, this is drug addicts take drugs and they overdose on drugs. Some of them are able to get clean through the help of things like sober houses, which are great to bring them together. But I mean, it just is, I think this is another case of Chris Murphy finding, searching the Google trends and finding somebody that's important that people are talking about, and so that he can get in headlines as he works towards running for president.
And I understand neighbors being a little concerned. You're worried about the value of your property. These are beautiful homes, but we've talked about things in Fairfield County are changing. A lot of these big mansions, there's no use for them. People can't afford to buy them anymore. So sober houses, things like that, moving in are kind of a reuse of that sort of property, and that's something that I think we're going to be seeing more and more of, especially with the opioid epidemic that has spread Connecticut and well beyond. So just, I think, something we're going to continue to talk about, Josh.
Oh, certainly.
But we're going to step out for a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some town response and officials' response to Governor Malloy's proposed budget, which would lead to some big cuts.
Actual good idea by our local politicians.
All right, we'll be back with more CT Pulse after this.
Want a new experience in car buying? No aggravation, no confrontation, just answers to all your questions. Scap Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Car buying the way you want it to be. With one of the largest selections of new 2- and 4-door Jeep Wranglers available, we are Connecticut's Wrangler headquarters. Located in Fairfield, Connecticut, we're easy to get to. Just 2.5 miles off the Merritt Parkway, exit 44 via Route 58 South. Save thousands right now during the Start Something New sales event, now through January 31st.
Get a fresh start to the new year by shaking up your meal routine. Walter Stewart's Market is your local source for a delicious selection of fresh and convenient salad shakers, like Southwest salad with chicken, Cobb with organic chicken, Power Vegan with fruit and quinoa, Greek salad with tabbouleh, and grilled shrimp with hominy. Grab one from our salad case or order from our deli today. Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street, New Canaan, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
Well, there's still a bite out on the water. Most anglers have decided to stow the gear for the winter. Just because Mother Nature isn't cooperating doesn't mean you can't see the latest models of all your favorite gear. With 2 convenient locations, it couldn't be easier to get your fix of summer. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, dockshop.com.
Whether you're looking for the freshest seafood, the perfect steak, or want to share delicious appetizers, look no further than the Stone's Throw in Seymour. Chef Peter Hom has more than 30 years of experience creating original recipes in his American eclectic style. Our dishes are made from scratch with fresh, local ingredients that pair perfectly with a seasonal craft beer, a signature cocktail, or your favorite wine. When you visit our Riverside location, you'll feel like you're on vacation when you're only a stone's throw from home. Visit us on Roosevelt Drive in Seymour or at stonesthrowct.com.
It's all about meeting goals this year, and Trinity CrossFit of Richfield has experienced trainers, top-of-the-line equipment, and a newly renovated space to help get you there. Offering more classes per day than any other CrossFit gyms in the area, we cater to all fitness levels. Our coaches have a combined 10 years of experience in CrossFit, and as competitors themselves, Trinity coaches can get you ready for competition in 2017. Visit our convenient location on Route 7, Danbury Road, or find out more at trinitycrossfit.com.
If you're watching this broadcast, you're not alone. The HAN network is available for 200,000 Connecticut cable customers on the Frontier network, and we've also reached more than 2 million viewers on our free live streaming sports, news, and entertainment broadcasts. To reach our rapidly growing audience, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to CT Pulse on the HAN Network. Kate Czaplinski with Josh Fisher. Now, Josh,
Kate.
We've been hearing a lot, especially from towns in Fairfield County, upset at the governor's cuts, which affect more affluent towns. One of those towns wants to do a few things about it, and that's Richfield.
Yeah, which is I think is really cool because it is some more stomping of the feet of people because people only care if something directly affects them, and cutting the educational support that Hartford has traditionally given to all towns in Connecticut. And these wealthy towns tend to get less than already than the less wealthy towns do, but they really want to severely cut money and they already have from this year's budget, and they want to do it even more, cut money from these local towns. So Richfield, which remember too has a Democratic first selectman and has a Democratic controlled board of selectmen, is working now. They want to meet with some of the other state reps and talk about a class action lawsuit against by joining with other
leaders of towns,
leaders, such as New Canaan and Reading and Darien,
Greenwich,
Wilton,
which is seeing the biggest cuts, right?
So I think this is great. What are some of the details of this case?
They want to talk about potentially bringing a class action lawsuit. They also, Richfield wants to explore the idea of applying pressure on Hartford by holding back a portion of the conveyance taxes on real estate sales that Richfield and other towns collect for the state.
That's a great idea.
It seems like Richfield really wants to work with these other towns that are seeing some of the biggest cuts. Richfield would lose about $4.4 million in that budget next year. And so they're also holding a town hall meeting with people are going to be sympathetic to their cause because they're Republican leaders, but Tony Boucher, state senator, state representative Michael Ferguson, and John Fry, all Republicans, and so I think they'll get a sympathetic ear there. But.
Of course, they'd have to start selling houses in Richfield to have any money in that conveyance tax to hold back from Hartford. So, and in New Canaan, and in Darien, and in Greenwich, and all these towns which have these very sluggish housing markets right now. And that's part of the reason why the state is facing a budget deficit, is because the houses are not selling, particularly in the wealthy towns, and that conveyance tax sends up a lot of money from those real estate deals to Hartford. But I think this is great. It's great to see these towns come together, and I think what's terrible about this plan is, it's almost illegal in Connecticut to reduce your education budget. If you reduce it by, 0.001%, the state will cut its funding to you also. Anyway, so for years, the state in Hartford has been encouraging every town in Connecticut to spend more and more and more. They never encourage, we have this 2.5% property tax cap now, which is the closest we've ever come to something limiting spending in Connecticut in the past 2 decades. But for the past 2 decades, we've been encouraging everyone to spend more, and then all of a sudden you cut this money. So towns can never even look at, because it's like if you cut spending by $100,000, you're going to actually then get it cut by even more, and then you're going to have to probably put that money back in to support what the ECS would would help you out with. So I think it's great to see. I think that, Fairfield County should do this a lot more in finding a way to come together and holding Hartford accountable, because Hartford isn't held accountable. And as we'll see, we're going to get to in a second here, we've seen a lot of the Democratic state reps and state senators have been avoiding these towns that they also represent because people are so upset about how Malloy and the rest of Hartford is going. And also, I'm a firm believer, I think more people should sue Dan Malloy. Right? I mean, just for those shorts he wears in the summer, I think he should be sued.
If you've ever sat through the long process of a school budget deliberation, a lot of the increases are contractual and negotiated previously with the unions within the school district. And then, since 2008, at least the towns that I've covered, I've seen a lot of them try to keep those extra things they want to add down for the most part. And so it's hard to actually take such a big reduction when your budget's naturally going up every year beyond your control. Now, you mentioned Susan Schultz of the Darien Times. She wrote an editorial this week. She called it Silence. And she said that's what Darien is getting from its Democratic state representatives. Josh, I know this is a very interesting editorial.
It really is. And she says that State Senator Bob Duff, who is the co-majority leader in the state Senate, State Senator Carlo Leone, whose district I live in Stamford, and William Tong, who is a North Stamford Democrat who also represents part of Darien, are not responding to any questions from the Darien Times about this. And that is, of course, it's nothing new about politicians avoiding certain media, but they also are not responding to anything from First Selectman Jamie Stevenson, who runs the town, and they're leaving out Terry Wood, who's the lone Republican that represents most of Darien in the state house. Of course, Darien is, most of these pretty, semi-wealthy towns in Connecticut are part of the 26th State Senate district, which is Tony Boucher's, and that stretches, it's kind of one of those also gerrymandered districts that stretches all the way from Bethel down to New Canaan. So that keeps, those are traditionally Republican towns. So they have had a Republican state senator, I think, at least since the 60s. I did look it up, I remember a year ago, I can't remember, but for pretty much all time, they've always had a Republican representing them. But Darien State Senate district is split in half. 2/3 of Darien is in Bob Duff's district, and which I believe is the 25th district, and then 1/3 is in the 27th district, which is Carl Leone's district, which the rest of that is mostly Stamford. Now, and then Tong's district represents, it's a sliver of Darien that is also represented by him. He used to represent, until they redistrict after the 2010 census, he was representing part of New Canaan. So now actually New Canaan has 2 Republican state reps, which is, so that benefits them a little bit more because they have people who tend to kind of be more on their side. But it seems like it's a shame if all of this is true and Bob Duff and Carlo Leone are ignoring Darien, because the thing is they don't need Darien to get elected. Darien never supports them, particularly in the 27th district, always votes in Leone's district, always votes Republican, but it doesn't matter because there's enough people in Stamford. In the part of Stamford that the 27th district represents is not North Stamford. That's lumped in with Greenwich, and part of New Canaan also, which is the Republican, that's Scott Francis district, the 36th. So Darien is kind of stuck here because they don't have much say in. They do have one state rep, so they're not completely boxed out, but. It must be very frustrating.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see if there is response to this editorial. So the response that Susan's gotten at the Darien Times has all been positive, backing her up on that editorial. I'm interested. We've had Bob Duff on the show. I always found him to be very responsive.
Oh, me too.
Intelligent, well-spoken about things. I wonder if now, when he sees this, maybe there'll be some action. Yeah. Maybe there'll be a town hall in Darien. That would be nice to see. Right. We can hope that happens.
I've always been a Bob Duff fan. I used to cover him when I was editor of the Darien Times years ago, and I haven't always agreed completely with him, but before he was the majority leader too. He wasn't as liberal as he kind of has become, and he's not in the easiest place too.
It's
because
a tough place.
He's one of the leaders of his party, which is also headed by the second least popular governor in the in the nation. Only person more popular than, or Chris Christie's the only one who's less popular
right.
than Governor Malloy. But so it's not an easy place for Duff to be. Leone has been moving up through the Democratic ranks and also represents such a small 1/3 of Darien that you can almost understand why he would ignore this. But Bob Duff has always been very proactive in Darien. He's been a presence there. He's been pretty well liked by a lot of people who maybe don't even vote for him, but he's always been well respected. So this is very un-Duff-like.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what the response is to Susan's editorial.
Yeah.
So,
Should
all
be
right.
fun.
Well, in just some kind of interesting public service announcement, because I learned something yesterday, but state officials and recycling advocates launched a new campaign to increase the recycling of plastic bags and wraps. Now, you can't put plastic bags in your recycling bin, but I just learned this yesterday, Josh, and I didn't know, but thanks to the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, I do. But a lot of supermarkets have drop-offs for plastic bags where they actually will recycle them in the proper way. Now, we both have dogs, so a lot of times those plastic bags get other use.
Right.
But I just thought that was really interesting. And if you want to find out what and where to recycle things, you can visit plasticfilmrecycling.org.
And this is a great thing too, because rather than imposing a ban, such as Westport has banned plastic bags.
Yeah, other towns talked about it.
Darien tried, a number of years ago to do it, and it didn't happen, and it's popped up elsewhere in other towns, such as New Canaan and Greenwich. But this at least says, there's a way to do it. And now I think a lot of people too enjoy plastic bags. Even when I didn't have a dog, it's nice to keep some of those. Who knows what you knew? Whether it's you throwing you're throwing some Tupperware into it because you're bringing your lunch to work, or you needed to throw some rags in or something like that. It never hurts to have plastic bags. And I wonder what the people in Westport do.
I know.
Because you can't pick up dog poop with a paper bag. It gets very
then
messy.
They have to buy the specific dog picking up bags. But there's about 200 grocery stores and retail stores in the state that will take those. So I thought that was really interesting. Now, before we take our next break and bring in Doug, just also a very cool story Melvin Mason at the Stratford Star has been covering, but I want to point out is that a Stratford student, a Bunnell High School sophomore, was visited this morning by Google ambassadors because she is the Connecticut winner of the Doodle for Google competition. Now, this is a competition to have her artwork featured on the Google homepage. So she is one of, I believe, 54 finalists. They did territories and all the states. And now she will get entered into a larger competition. And she did win an Android tablet for this, and she has a chance to win a $30,000 college scholarship and a $50,000 Google for Education grant. Now, this is online voting, so if people want to support her, that opens up March 1st. Melvin talked with Sarah, but you can go to stratfordstar.com to get more on that story. I just think it's very cool, so good for her.
It is cool. Do they use the Electoral College to select who wins in this?
So. But you can vote, and then Google will decide.
So your vote does matter.
Your vote does matter. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're going to step out for a break. When we come back, we are joined by our own editorial cartoonist, Doug Smith, after this.
At the Milford Bank, we offer an extensive selection of lending products and services to meet virtually any need. Submit your application online in our Mortgage Web Center. Start to finish, you can apply for a loan in as little as 10 minutes. Our knowledgeable and helpful staff are available to meet with you at your convenience. To learn more about what we can do for you, stop by one of our Milford Bank offices or visit us at milfordbank.com. The Milford Bank, always there. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
On time, done right, safe and reliable. MrHandymanCT.com.
Let our satisfied customers tell it.
I have called Mr. Handyman for every reason, every occasion, every broken item, every leak. They have bailed me out on many occasions, and I would recommend them to anyone.
For any project, large or small.
MrHandymanCT.com.
Have a sports injury or slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Basketball, hockey, skiing, Whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
We told Dad he could have his office back if he sold 150 cars last month.
Deal's a deal.
Well, Dad, you did it. You get your office back.
Forget it. I'm having too much fun down here. My new goal, 160 cars. Wow. Folks, if you ever wanted a great price on a new Nissan, now is the time.
Right now, lease a 2017 Altima 2.5S for only $99 a month.
Isn't it time you got Millerized?
At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Recently renovated and home to one of Connecticut's largest indoor turf fields, InSports is a multi-sport recreation center providing state-of-the-art facilities for league play, camps, and youth programs. Sign your child up now for InSports Future Stars Basketball Academy, teaching skills on the basketball court for boys and girls ages 5 through 9. Visit InSportsCenters.com for more information on this 7-week program. And for adults, spots are also still available for our men's 30 and over and 40 and over leagues. Like and follow us on Facebook.
I'm Frank Granito.
And I'm Donald Ng for the HAN Network.
Tune in to Nutmeg Sports Monday through Thursday, where we bring you all the top stories from Connecticut sports.
From highlights to player interviews and expert analysis, no one gets you closer to Connecticut's games than Nutmeg Sports.
Nutmeg Sports, now Monday through Thursday at 2 p.m. on the HAN Network.
And it's time for drawing conclusions with our own Doug Smith, who's on a little Alice in Wonderland adventure this week.
It looks
Doug.
like fun, Doug.
I like your shorts. Is that 'cause the weather's nice this week? I don't know that I've ever seen you in shorts.
I don't. It looks like I pulled them up really high there. They were falling down or something.
You never know what you might step on when you're on a trip like that, Doug.
And you know, I always wonder what that caterpillar was smoking anyway.
Well. All right, well, let's take a look at some of the first cartoons. Now, there was a common theme in some of the cartoons this week, Doug.
I just wanted to show how that one can be recycled for each town.
Recycled for other towns. So let's show it up, some picking pockets. Here we go. So this one for Darien, you were able to reuse this for a lot. Now, this is something we were just talking about earlier.
Hartford talking about, we're going to take from you to take care of this city. And
right. So just a lot of towns feeling that hurt. I know we have Darien. You used it for Weston, Monroe, Reading. It kind of worked for all of those.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so moving on from the Picking Pockets cartoons, what do we have up next? Let's take a look at our next one in a minute. Okay. I think there's a little outhouse action. There it is.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about this one.
Oh, Morehouse Field in Weston. They want to put a permanent bathroom in there. And I'm just saying, I don't think that's what they had in mind.
I hope that's not what they had in mind either. I like a nice clean bathroom, not a outhouse.
Hey, an outhouse could be clean, Kate, if it's properly taken care of, and it's downhill.
True. All right. Up next, we have the Audubon Society needs volunteers to watch ospreys, and the Beardsley Zoo needs participants for Frog Watch USA. So you consolidated these two. I don't think these two creatures get along very well, though.
No, well, ospreys like frogs.
Yeah.
They're pretty
Frogs,
tasty,
not so much like
exactly.
ospreys.
They're very French when it comes to frogs, right?
Okay, now this one I've seen before, I believe, in other cases, and I love it. This next one up, we have the Loretti Cave.
Yeah, that ran a couple years ago when he was announced he was going to run for governor.
The Markmobile.
Right, and he's doing it again. And
he's coming out.
And we're going to see in the next one how we can recycle a cartoon.
Yes, Tim Herbst, the red sweater. I like it. And he's coming out of the Tim Cave.
Maybe he's following him in his Robin outfit.
That looks just like Tim Herbst's car.
He's got those fish fins on it.
So very cool there. Now, I know we have one final one, and this actually relates to another story we talked about. Tell us about this.
Oh, some clown dropped off a bunch of those supremacy flyers all through Wilton and other towns, and the town is deciding they're going to have a proclamation, not stand for it anymore. And it's just basically an attitude of like, let's try to be nicer, folks.
Yeah.
To all the characters that are the least
Right,
nice.
and I don't know, who do you think, Josh, is the worst one out of that? I'd go with Cartman.
I'd go with
I'd
Cartman.
go with Cartman too.
Yeah.
Oscar's my favorite.
Mr.
Actually, the
Burns.
Grinch.
Oscar's nice. I mean, he's grouchy, but he likes kids, and the Grinch
Yeah.
redeemed himself, so it's just down to Burns.
You know,
and
when
Cartman.
my family and I, when we watched The Grinch Stole Christmas, I turn it off after he steals the presents because I think that's the happy ending.
Yeah, you hate when his heart grows 3 sizes.
Like he's got to get that thing looked at.
Yeah, that's not healthy. All right, well, Doug, as always, thank you so much
thank
for
you.
your cartoons this week.
Well done.
We are going to wrap things up here on CT Pulse. If you missed any, you can catch it on demand. Josh, we have a busy couple of weeks in FCX Sports, so we may not be in studio for CT Pulse.
No, we're not going to be in studio for
All right.
CT Pulse next week.
Good.
But
Like
we have Nutmeg Sports coming up at 2 today. We have the girls ice hockey semifinals. They start tonight at 6 and 8 o'clock. You can watch that. Then tomorrow we have, of course, Coffee Break and Yankee Fisherman and more Nutmeg Sports and the girls FCX basketball championships on Thursday. Then on Saturday, for the first time ever, we're going to do 7 live sports broadcasts, which will include the girls hockey championship, the boys ice hockey playdown games. That's the bottom 4 seeds of the 6-team tournament. And then you can watch all 4 FCX boys basketball quarterfinals live from Fairfield Ward High School. All that coverage on Saturday starts at noon and should wrap up sometime by 9 o'clock that night.
All right,
So
awesome.
get some rest, Kate. You have
Yes,
a lot of
we
sports
got a
tonight.
lot to get ready for. All right, well, we will see you next time on CT Pulse. Have a great day.
Bye.